All right, welcome to week 4, March of the Machine League. Feature matches. Back here with Bob again. And we have Drake M, who's a new player to the league in his first league. And he's facing against Jordan, who we've said every superlative possible about him. He's an excellent player and proven that time and time again. Bob's going to be looking at it from his point of view. Looks like Jordan's not running his companion this time. So
no, we see some big hits in his hand. Sludge Monster, the 5-mana card from Innistrad, as well as Rise of the Ants. We've got a Kami of Mirrored Hopes and a couple of lands to round things out. So we're going big, or maybe going home, so says his deck title.
So I was about to proclaim Drake's hand as quite poor because he had a Timuret Chosen from Death and a Hoarding Broodlord with no swamps in his starting hand. But looks like his draw step has fixed all that going forward.
We see the big, powerful 2/4, the flying Chrome Host Seed Shark, which makes the incubate tokens on non-creature spells. This is a very powerful card. So if Jordan doesn't find an answer to it, it could easily run away with the game.
Yeah, so Drake's also got in hand, along with the Hoarding Broodlord, he's got an island, he's got a plains, he's got another swamp, and he's got an Ephara's Dispersal, which... I was going to say would get him a 3/3 incubator token, but presently it would not, since the Seed Shark
but what it will do is,
for the time being,
the Sludge Monster comes down, obviously, on turn 4, a turn ahead, with the Kami ramping it out, but and it's going to continue to turn off abilities for creatures, making them 2/2s, but if for whatever reason, Jordan doesn't actually take care of any of these creatures, they could have waited for the Ephara's Dispersal for a long time and then sort of surprised all of his creatures back into their normal stats. Now it looks like we've got the Ephara's Dispersal on at sorcery speed here.
Yeah, he's just going to make him recast it. But the thing is, now he could put a sludge counter on the other creature. Now they're both lose their abilities, because Seed Shark has not lost that slime counter. It's just not affecting it at the time being. But next turn, Drake can play down his Hoarding Broodlord, and he can go find a hard removal for that Sludge Monster.
He's going to need it. Now, we also see, of course, Rise from the Ants from the opening hand, which is the 2 3/3s coming for 6 mana. And we also drew in a Rixmathes off the top. So that can come down at any moment as well. Jordan's got big bombs.
He's got a green-blue ramp deck.
And to round it all off, we now also have the Invasion of Ixalan, the big green X spell we saw in his Luris deck. Now it's here finding some big monsters.
Yeah, Sludge Monster was quite the card back in this format in Midnight Hunt.
Correct that. It's Invasion of Ikoria, which makes even more sense going to get big monsters, right? That's green X, go search your library or graveyard for a non-human creature.
Yeah, so this Hoarding Broodlord can come down. It means the Sludge Monster will get to attack into it, but it can tutor up something of use here. Presumably,
I see planes now on the battlefield for Drake.
Yeah, I got a planes in his starting hand. Presumably, white is his splash. I got a better look at his deck now. I see Geruda, Hidetsugu, and Kairi. 2 copies of Atris. The white, I see cut shorts. Maybe he's just a little light on removal. So he has 2 cut shorts. So instead of getting a removal, he's going to get Hidetsugu and Kairi instead of just something that gets the Sludge Monster off the board.
Sometimes you got to draw 3 cards.
I mean, look, it's a 5-mana flyer that draws cards. I can't say bad things about it, but I'm not sure it's exactly what is needed here. Maybe he figures Jordan is going to leave up mana to protect the Sludge Monster. Maybe he should just go get more threats. But
I think one of the things is that even though all of his creatures are being turned into 2/2s, his life total's not under pressure quite yet, right? The Ephara's Dispersal, a couple items here. If Jordan attacks him with a Sludge Monster, sure, he's going to get in for 5, but that's certainly going to give him an opportunity to either triple block or eventually grab some sort of removal and turn his Broodlord back into a 7/6, his Hidetsugu into a 5/4, his Chrome Seed Shark into a 2/4. I mean, he's got stats on the board so long as he can deal with this Sludge Monster.
Yeah, Drake has certainly got a plan at least. He's we don't know too much about him. He's a new player to our server and to our league, but he's off to a good start. He's 12-6 so far. So he's been successful thus far. Jordan, we know of his success. He's just 10-8 so far this league, so a very modest record for where he usually is around this time. But here's this Rise of the Ants, so
I'm a little surprised not to have seen a Rixmathes come out a little bit sooner, and the main reason why is that if you cast it after you've cast all the other cards in your hand, you don't have ways to get counters off of it.
Okay, so he's drawn a Vanquish the week, which means he can double up with his lethal exploit that he has in hand, which is it's like a -2/-2 spell.
Okay.
He's going to go hit Hitsugu first, and he's drawn well, Preening Champion, Xerix Stroke Knight, and aforementioned Gyruda, Doom of
Oh,
Depths.
okay. Big hits.
So looks like he's going to be able to team up here on the Sludge Monster between -2/-2. Oh wait, actually. The lethal exploit, um, it actually gives -2/-2, and then it gives an additional -1 for each modified creature you control.
Oh, he's got 3
his
counters.
creatures are modified. His
Well,
creatures
thanks, Jordan.
have been modified. So
Wow, hey, that works. So not only that, but if Jordan attacks with the Sludge Monster, which if I were him, I probably would. Drake can kind of blow him out in combat.
Yeah, lethal exploit in my mind was always just this -2 spell that sometimes you get an extra -1.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
like
I mean, that makes
while,
perfect sense.
he doesn't want to risk it. He wants to unlock his creatures now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't interact. He could have Cyber Cryptomancer or any other number of protection things.
And now Jordan is on the back foot. I mean, with what, 12, 14 damage in the air?
He's got
Yikes.
14 power flying and a Gyruda coming down if he wants it. So here comes Invasion. Let's see what the scariest thing Jordan can find here.
A Sludge Monster from the graveyard. How does that sound?
It can get from the graveyard. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Oh man, I hadn't considered that line. I thought for sure it was coming from his library. I was like, oh, wonder what he's got, but nope.
Just what else could he want?
Yeah, and if it's not, don't fix it, right?
Now he's gonna have to go. He's gonna have to use his Gyruda here to find something.
Now we know a couple cards on top of his library. Well, at least one, right? Because he put him back with Hitotsugu.
Yeah, he's got Vanquish the Week and Xerix Strobe Knight, so not very appealing at this time. But Gyruda can hopefully dig him to something. See what he can find here.
Even pulling something off of Jordan's deck certainly could be helpful.
Yeah. Let's see. Well,
now we do see at least one flashback card in the Rise from the Ants, so that we know that Jordan's been to Innistrad for some of those flashback cards. There's certainly bound to be some other ones, as there were lots of flashback cards in blue. I don't think that Drake really should consider much of that, but it is something that could happen.
Well, there's a Firmament Sage. Not maybe exactly what he was after, but
we got a Portent Tracker on our side.
Yeah, those are the choices: Firmament Sage or Portent Tracker. Nothing in Drake's nothing on Drake's side could get done here. So, does Jordan have any instants in his hand that could disrupt some sort of big block if Drake decides to?
Nope, we're on all creatures, an island, and a Rise in the Ants in the graveyard. There's certainly something to be said about just playing out the Erixmathes, and then he's got enough mana to cast the other 2 creatures in hand. And so if he were to do that, he's got 2 of the 5 slumber counters taken care of. Next turn, he gets a Rise to the Ants for a 3rd counter.
He doesn't need to send the Sludge Monster in at this point. Like, he has kind of the creatures he needs to have locked down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Gyruda being a big 6/6 certainly wouldn't hurt to go into a 2/2, but it really doesn't matter because he can just continue to cast spells. He's got a bunch of ants that he can kind of put around. Apparently, Sludge Monster is going to be a 7/7 now due to the Kami passive.
Well, Sludge Monster giving counters, getting counters. It's definitely having an impact on this game.
Oh, and we're going to attack with the Sludge Monster, probably assume downgrading the Gyruda, and he's going to hopefully just take the 3-for-1 here. Whichever 3 creatures he wants to kill, he should be able to.
I imagine the creature, if he could choose to keep creatures, it would be... Well, actually, Drake has to block with 4, and then Jordan gets to decide which 3.
Exactly.
Die.
Yeah.
But I imagine he would hold back... either Hoarding Broodlord or Chromhost Seed Shark as the one to not get down. But the thing is that this battle is going to flip if this happens.
Unless he wants to chump the beast as well, or the ant. Yeah. I mean, with the flip side plus the Sludge Monster itself, those 2 are lethal threats with the effect on the back of the Invasion of Ixalan, which of course is the big 8/8, I believe.
Yeah, this this sludge monster came down, immediately warped the game, got removed, immediately came back, rewarped the game because those counters did not go away. So
Yeah,
these
brutal.
pesky slime counters. I remember in our double feature league, which featured both sets, Midnight Vow and Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. I had a showdown against I think it was Damien. He had a sludge monster and I had a Toxrill, so they both gave slime counters.
Oh, no way. I've never seen that before.
But the thing is that
the sludge monster would make the Toxrill.
Sludge monster reads you can put a slime on you could put a slime counter on a non-horror creature. However, Toxrill is a horror.
Surprise.
So Toxrill could not be targeted by the sludge monster ability. So I came out on top in that battle. It was normally you didn't see that in limited because they were in different sets, but they both give slime counters, which they each do different things when they're on the board. So all my non-horror creatures lost their abilities, but my horror creature did not lose its ability.
Which is the only important one, at least in that scenario. As we look at this one, we'll see that Jordan's taking a quick moment to sort of order blockers, and it looks like the Seed Shark is going to be the one he's going to leave alive, mainly because I believe that Drake only has 2 cards in hand. He doesn't imagine there's going to be too many spells there, and if they are, maybe not enough to take over the game.
Yeah, he's got a Vanquish the Weak and a Preening Champion, so he's got at least one piece of interaction that can net him another body. And here comes Atris. So he does have 2 of these at his disposal.
It looks like we're kind of at the moment of the game where if Jordan continues to rip some action, getting that big 12-12 is going to be huge. In the Atris Pals,
he's got an 8-8 and a 12-12 potentially in the balance here.
Yeah. We see an Artistic Refusal, a Monastery Mentor, and a Final Flourish. 3 huge cards, which could have major impacts on the game, because when you flip over your battle, you don't just get the card, you do have to cast it. So that Artistic Refusal is huge.
Yeah, I didn't catch the Monastery Mentor as he was scanning through his deck, but definitely a nice one to splash for.
Yeah, I don't really know how you do it. It looks like Jordan's going to put the Monastery Mentor face up on the battlefield and 2 cards face down. At least that's what he's looking like. And I kind of like this pile because Monastery Mentor, very big, something he could probably beat, but Drake doesn't know how powerful the other 2 cards are.
Yeah, a couple weeks back, we saw somebody take the 1 card with Atris twice in the same match, and I was like, I almost like, I just see Atris as draw 2 cards a lot of the time, but yeah.
I think generally you're right, but I think if Drake's in such a dire straits where he is right now, seeing all the power potentially on the board, I could see him taking the singular card because it's so powerful.
And now he's like, oh man. But now
what can you do?
Now he can play his mentor. Oh, he's not going to play the mentor. He's just going to hold that Vanquish the Weak here.
I think that's smart because it's going to guarantee his Chrome Seed Shark value as well.
Yeah, I guess he said I don't need a Monk and an Incubate next turn. I just need something dead now.
And it's a 3/3, which is very relevant on the board. Everything that Jordan's got going on is 3/3s, of course, with the slumbering Isle starting to wake up.
He's got Isaac Ataxius. Well. He gets to Incubate 4.
And then, of course, with the Isaac Ataxius, we also picked up an Invasion of Pyrulia, which is going to be huge because it's going to set up Jordan's next potential 3 draw steps, while also, again, removing a counter off of the slumbering.
And this could potentially, if he finds a cheap double-faced card, he could actually have the 12-12 online.
4 total mana is really all he needs. You see 2 lands and the Innistrad ramp spell with flashback Path to the Festival, I believe. Yeah. Jordan's considering keeping an island here, mainly just because it's a free draw. He's also considering just bottom 3 and trying to flip a random draw. But it looks like we're going to keep the island.
Just take the draw where you can get it.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like we're 1 mana short of casting Rise of the Ants flashback this turn. So I don't think there's too many good attacks here.
No, he's going to have
to... Well, it should be said, that's knowing the Vanquish the Weak. He doesn't know that, and I think he might be running into it.
Well, okay, he's going to do it here. He's basically offering up his Streetwise Negotiator to get eaten in order to make some progress on this.
Well, the 2/2's going to stay back, right? And so the 2/3's getting in and the 3/3's getting in, both of which would trade with the Atris.
All right, so he's just basically offering a trade for the Atris, and then the other two creatures are going to bounce off each other.
And I think Drake's perfectly happy to take that trade.
Oh yeah, I don't see why not. He
Exactly
said,
where he wants. Okay,
"Let me
looks like
just do
he's gonna
this. Let me just do
keep
this
the
real quick."
Atris.
Well, yeah, you block first just in case your opponent wants to try something,
Mm-hmm.
but he sees all the information right now. He's trying to play in, so not very useful here. So he's just gonna put some bodies into play here. Which does the 12/12 Kraken have trample over there, or is it just
I
a
don't
12/12?
believe so. I think it's just a 12/12. Of course, for 4 mana, that's a pretty good rate, but
I
takes a
uh,
little bit of time.
I wouldn't refuse that deal. Right, so now Drake's just lined up a bunch of bodies here. None of them are hugely impressive, but they're all just gonna sit back here and try and make sure this 8/8 doesn't come in. Because if the 8/8 on the back of the invasion comes in, it is most certainly going to
Game
be
over.
ruinous.
Yeah.
And here's a 12/12. So
Looks like that little 1/1 elemental is probably going to be getting in front of it, would be my
yeah,
guess.
this goat looking thing. I think he's just attacking. Is he attacking him directly? Okay, he's attacking him
With the
directly with the
Arithmethes,
12.
because 12 damage is hard to pass up, right?
It's a lot, yeah. It's 80% of the current life total. So, yeah, and he's throwing everything else here towards this battle. He wants the 8/8.
Looks like there's some pretty good blocks overall for Drake, where he could potentially double block the 4/4, trade off, and maybe even eat the 2/3 with his 3/3.
He's going to lose his
Um,
monastery mentor though in the process, but he doesn't have any spells and he doesn't have anything in hand. So, uh,
yeah. Normally, I would say this would be a perfect opportunity for maybe a Brood Lord or an Atris. And even though there's a second one in the deck,
he could also allow one of the two power creatures to hit the battle.
that's true. So maybe you trade off the Atris and the Preening Champion with the 4/4.
Yeah, looks like
Or trade off the Atris with the 2/3. I mean, it's all sort of the
yeah,
same.
and I think he might opt to keep his mentor here just in case he gets a spell because it's another block.
Mentor deals pretty well with Arithmethes, assuming he can continuously chain off spells.
Yeah, so he's done what I thought secondly that he would do, which is to do this. But now there's a problem of just these 3/3s are on board as well. Etherblade Agent here is a nice draw.
Ooh,
It's a
that is a
death
good
touch
draw.
blocker. So
Now, normally, I would say like the Siege Shark would do really well here. It blocks the 3/3s quite well.
yeah, the problematic a lot of the problematic bodies are gone here. With the exception of the 12/12.
Going big or going home, says Jordan. It can't risk the Return King off the top.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, indeed,
That's
right?
just gonna draw some cards here.
Well, the
Put
other
some
thing, the
counters.
Kami taps for any color of mana. So even normally when you wouldn't have red or black mana, he's got that on board here. So he could bring back the Sludge Monster.
And the ability to put counters will put 2 counters. So for 2 mana, it's put 2 counters on a creature. So he's got an instant speed Ozolith here.
Kenrith is very happy to be in Kamigawa, or at least around some Kamis.
And his opponents are never happy to see him. It's just like
Not usually.
what a groan this card is.
Yeah,
This does everything.
It's a very fun card. I know it's a commander card, and I think it's perfect to be seen in a couple games limited here and there.
This is a card that is entirely, almost assuredly, too powerful for limited. But we get to play with it here because we've never actually seen it in real limited. We've only seen it in cubes really, and it was made for commander. So
Jordan gets a
yeah.
free 2 mana because by tapping the 2 lands, putting 2 counters in the Kami, that ends up getting him some free mana there. It's essentially net neutral, but he gets the counters on the Kami.
Yeah.
And then the Sludge Monster, of course, coming back.
Death Touch has now lost its abilities. The Seed Shark is gone back to being a 2/2. So,
poor Shark.
This draw of Kenrith is just. I think this might seal the game here. I mean, Drake's still at 15, but not for too much longer. If this.
There's no way he can defend this battle effectively, and so essentially he's just got to chump the Arithmethes, let the battle flip over, and hope the top of his deck is helpful.
I don't know if he has a board wipe, but if he does, he's got a shot, perhaps.
I was going to say a Sunfall probably does it.
Sunfall, yeah. I'll take that. He's got a Vision of Amonkhet, which...
Makes a Monk and is a redraw, I guess.
It's not going to be quite enough on its own, but... He's drawn a Skittering Surveyor, so he's
Very powerful 3-drop.
no, this Zalortha just will deal enough damage here. Everything's a non-human except for the king over there, so everything's gonna get in.
If it was extremely important, there's always a possibility as well that the sludge monster could slime the king, I believe, and make it a non-human. Obviously, wasn't important here, but one little interaction that might help push lethal.
I don't know why he would want to do that, but sure.
If he was 1 or 2 damage short, right?
Yeah, so Drake, like I said, he's playing a blue-black deck. He has a Monastery Mentor and a Cut Short as his white cards. And the rest is your classic blue-black with... we saw most of the rares in his deck, actually, in that game. He drew most of them. So not too much more to say about his deck. What's Jordan got there?
Very different than what we saw last week. Again, if you watched week 3, it was all 2-drops down the row, but now it's heavy on 3s, meaning Path to the Festival, Kami, Overgrown Pest, a lot of these mana sort of making things, Erixmathes we saw in the last game to help ramp up to 2 copies of Corruption of Tawashi. We've got the Rise of the Ant Sludge Monster, 2 Tangle Skylines, so big sort of incubate tokens. And then, of course, we see Kenrith and 1 copy, the only other white card in the deck, a Progenitor Exarch, which is the double X white, make incubate X tokens. The Invasion of Ikoria, able to sort of get some of these massive monsters onto the battlefield. Jordan is going huge in this deck.
Yeah, so as I suspected when I saw the Cut Short, not too much removal on Drake's side. He's got 2 Final Flourish, he's got 2 Vanquish the Weak, he's got a Deadly Derision. And he's got a twisted...
How about counter magic? Any counter magic in there?
He's got a Twisted Embrace, which is a card from Kamigawa. I think he's sided in a Change the Equation, since that stops all these big green cards.
One of the things to note is that will also nab the backside of the Invasion of Ikoria. Even though it's a huge 8/8, its CMC is 2 because X would be 0 on the stack.
Hopefully, if that comes up, he'll track that, since a lot of people might not catch that.
It might be the best 2-drop ever, right? 2 mana 8/8.
I mean,
it's pretty good.
You can't disdainful stroke the backside, unfortunately.
That's true.
Not that that's in this set, but somebody could have it in their pool and in their deck from all the planes we've visited. It's showed up a few times. All right, so going to the second game here. Ugh. He's got only black and white lands to go with a Timuret and 2 blue cards, and he's going to send that back.
Jordan's got 4 lands and a couple spells. Oh, this is the Invasion of Ixalan. We have both the 2 mana Invasion of Ixalan as well as the 2 and X Invasion of Ikoria. Yep. 3 islands and a Sandstalker Moloch, so can't cast that at the moment. And then a Corruption of Tawashi on the top end. So we're looking for a forest here.
Yeah, so
didn't find it.
Drake found a reasonable mulligan here, but if Jordan sort of executes the similar game plan like he did last game, it's gonna be tough for him to keep up. He's got an Invasion of Amonkhet to start things off next turn. He's got an Atris as well, Cut Short, and 2 lands. So he's gonna have some cards flowing here between Invasion and Atris.
Jordan did pick up a Kami here on his last draw step. And so next turn he's going to be able to slam that down and then into the Corruption of Tawashi. We're currently, with the Invasion of Ixalan, debating between a Progenitor Exarch, very powerful white card with no white mana, Overgrown Pest, and Tangled Skyline. So he could be ramping into that as well. The Kami does make white mana, but it looks like the Tangled Skyline to go well with the Corruption of Tawashi is going to be the pick here.
Yeah, the Kami was pretty important last game. It sort of just it sat there on the battlefield for the whole time, but it had an impact on the game for sure.
Oh yeah.
All right, so he's trying to vanquish the weak here. Drake has off the Invasion, but usually you want to play Invasion when you have a board already. But
well, I think Invasion's a good card. Invasion of Amonkhet is a great card no matter what. Even just a disinformation campaign you can remember from the Ravnica block. Yeah. That was a very reasonable card. So
yeah, still a 2-for-1.
One little card that's been sort of hiding out in Jordan's hand is Afara's Dispersal, and I think he's pretty hesitant to discard that, even though nobody's really on board yet. And it looks like the Sandstalker Moloch being difficult to cast is going to be the one hitting the bin.
Okay. Reasonable.
Oh. A Plains at the top.
Oh, he drew a Plains.
No, he's drawing a Plains, and he was considering that Progenitor Exarch for a long time and eventually decided against it. But of course, now drawing the Plains, it could have been really really helpful with the corruption of Tawashi that's going to be coming down likely next turn.
Oh, okay. So he's got a Atris here.
Mm-hmm.
And with the twisted embrace that he's drawn, he might be able to kill this this invasion.
Man, if I cast Atris and saw 3 spells every time, this would be wild. We've got a Monastery Mentor, a Timer, and Ifara's Dispersal. All fantastic cards to be hitting with Atris. This is wild.
Maybe he'll just do what he did last time. Monastery
Now,
face up. Maybe not.
It's earlier in the game, and Drake's not under a lot of pressure, and maybe taking Monastery Mentor on its own would be still the right call. I really have a tough time not taking whatever the 2 cards are.
I always have a tough time not taking whatever the 2 cards are. So much.
And that's
so
what
that
looks like there's going to be again. Monastery Mentor face up and 2 cards face down.
2 cards with. I don't know if I've ever taken 1 card with Atris.
I think I had my back against the wall, took a removal spell in order to stay alive, sort of thing. You know, if that counts, I've certainly, failed to get my card advantage. But
I just say if I die doing what I love. So drawing cards.
We had a plan this whole game. Yeah. Corruption of Tawashi or Tangled Skyline on turn 5, and here comes the big sludge monster off the top of the deck.
Okay, well he's got a twisted embrace to get rid of it, but it sounds like from what you said, Jordan has the basically the reanimate card again.
No, but I would recommend it. But if you do it, you do it in a different room, so you don't have to listen.
There we go.
Yeah. If I could just ask,
I
think it's Russell that's.
Yeah, I muted him on my side. I'd suggest you might do the same. Yeah. The Twist Embrace, obviously the kill spell is very important here. However, the +1/+1 is no slouch either, because now Lazatev Convert comes over off the top, is probably going to take this sludge monster. Oh yeah, and now Kami can't tap for mana. So now everything seems to be going wrong.
Even if he gets the sludge monster back, like I said with the interaction before, sludge monster says non-horror creatures with slime counters lose their abilities.
And so Jordan's really only answer is this Ifara's Dispersal, but Ifara's Dispersaling an Invasion of Amonkhet is not feeling good. I mean, that is not where you want to be.
But he's got to have some other avenue to pursue here. I guess with green blue, you don't really have too many options as far as hard removal.
Mm-mm. So we've got the Corruption of Tawashi, we've got the Tangled Skyline. If Jordan can kind of survive and keep the board state as it is, two items to note here. He'll be drawing lots of cards. He should be able to sort of try to go over the top, but also incubate tokens are not very good slime targets, right? They're supposed to be 0/0s, and if they get turned into slimes, then they're just going to be 2/2s with all the counters on them.
Well, they'll be 7/7s in that case.
Well, sure. In the Tangled Skyline case, in Corruption Tawashi, you get a 6/6, and just in general, it doesn't really match up very well.
Wait.
No. All right, so Drake's got a few choices here with his 5 mana. He's got a bunch of creatures. He's got Monastery Mentor, Preening Champion, Aetherblade Agent. He's got Vanquish the Weak and Cut Short for removal. So he's just going to attack here.
That 5 life might seemingly be relevant, hopefully allowing Jordan to turn the corner here.
So due to the fact that the Sludge Monster is still in play, the Atris has lost its abilities still.
So hey man, it does 3/3 sometimes.
Yeah, it does not have menace anymore. So the slime counters affect everybody apparently, except for horrors. Horrors go.
Yeah, naturally.
So Jordan doesn't have quite enough mana yet to bring back his Sludge Monster if he wanted to, but let's see what he's gonna opt to do here. So Pest. What else is there aside from the invasion of Ikoria?
So he doesn't have the invasion of Ikoria quite yet. The Ixalan was the one in the opening hand, the one that's on the board. He's got the Corruption of Tawashi, the 5 mana draw a card whenever something flips. He just drew this Portent Tracker. He's been sitting on that Overgrown Pest. And so you'll notice that before he cast the Overgrown Pest, he was down to a singular white mana and a singular green mana. Mm-hmm. And so finding that second forest off the top of the deck likely is going to help him sort of continue to cast as many spells as he can. Because if he were just to cast the Corruption of Tawashi, that's it. He can't flip anything over. He's not drawing cards. He's not really got much of a board state. But being able to cast 2 spells here in theory should hopefully...
the Corruption of Tawashi represents some more cards for him, which he needs, clearly.
Just takes a lot of mana to get there.
Yeah. And I mean, if Jordan doesn't like what the Sludge Monster's doing, well, he introduced it to the game, so clearly
Yeah, it's his
doing.
fault.
Yeah, he introduced
True.
it to this game. It's not even in the set. Yeah, so he's opting to not put a slam counter on anything. I believe.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters into the pest, and then obviously you don't want to upgrade their 1/1 into a 2/2.
Nope. You definitely don't. So he's just gonna. Looks like he's gonna vanquish here, just to keep his side of the board here, and he's gonna attack this Kami here. So just in case the Sludge Monster leaves, he doesn't want the Kami to get back its abilities here, and he
Certainly makes
gets a
sense.
monk. So
Tough not to cash in a monk when you can.
I feel like he could have attacked with the Mentor here, given the Vanquish week and Final Flourish in hand. But
well, one thing that could be said is that he doesn't want to price himself into casting the Vanquish, right?
Nope.
If you don't want to guarantee that you have to do it in a sense.
So Jordan gets to Corruption and draw a card here, but the Final Flourish in hand for Drake can just pick off that big token.
That is tough. Now, one thing can be said that Jordan's going to try to get him. The Sludge Monster can only target creatures, and as of right now, the Incubate token is not a creature. So after the attacks, Jordan can end up flipping up his 5/5 and blocking the Sludge Monster effectively. Unfortunately, what he doesn't know is the Final Flourish in hand means he's not going to be able to block at all.
And he might just 4/7 10. It will be lethal if Drake plays his Breeding Champion pre-combat and sacks the token from that, rather than
the only thing that Jordan's got, he's got the Zephyra's Dispersal in hand. It's going to allow him to stay alive, but he's going to need something off the top of the deck.
Yeah, he is going to almost assuredly bounce the Sludge Monster, make him start the invasion all over again, I suppose.
Yeah, and the card he's going to draw off the Corruption of Tawashi, assuming that Invasion of Amonkhet gets replayed, it's going to go away anyway.
Yeah, Drake's
and a point of power coming back from Atris.
Yeah, Drake's drawn another Atris here, so not very impactful on this board. I think Drake's just deciding how he can proceed here, what exactly he wants to do, if he wants to play Breeding Champion before combat, or just proceed to attackers. He's going to proceed to attackers, and likely to attack with everything, I imagine.
I could see holding back the Death Toucher.
Yeah.
As probably the only thing I could see, but realistically, I think you're right. I mean, everything coming right to face, there's not a whole lot of reason not to.
Looks like he might be a little more conservative on his attacks. Nothing wrong with that. So, looks like he is going to do as you suggested he might, which is to hold back the Death Touch, just in case Jordan wants to try and attack that battle for some reason.
Yeah, and I think that one of the keys is if he's not playing the Breeding Champion, he doesn't have pretty much no matter what at this point, and so because he needs to sacrifice a creature in order to kill the 5/5, and so if you're not representing lethal, then there's probably no reason to do much there.
Yeah, so here comes he's going to animate the 4/4 here rather than the 5/5.
Sure.
Looks like in response to the card draw, Drake wants to Final Flourish. Let's see.
I think this is the exact timing he wants. You don't really ever know if somebody's picked up maybe a Shore Up from DMU or some other random 1 mana. Tamio Safekeeping was in Kamigawa. Just Tyvar Stand was at some point. I think in 1.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff there.
We get those cards often nowadays. All right, so
not blocking the Sludge Monster is interesting. Maybe he thinks that
he's just gonna Final Flourish here and boom, boom, more triggers, more damage.
Yeah,
so is Jordan gonna fire off the Dispersal here? I don't think he wants to take 9, but
he drew a Portent Tracker off of the Transform card.
Looks like he's not going to.
Yeah, there's still a window here. He's going to use the portent tracker, and then he'll use the Zafar as his personal. I'm really interested at the target because you don't really want to use the invasion of Amonkhet, but maybe he drew a portent tracker. He's not really that concerned about losing that card.
Yeah, I mean, it resets the invasion, which means you have to sort of start it all over again. But he's just gonna go. He's just gonna keep his creature alive here.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking that
take the 9, but
the incubate tokens are really powerful here, right? And so therefore he's gonna, they're kind of immune to the sludge monster, like we talked about earlier. So keeping as many on board as possible is going to be helpful.
Yeah, so he's gonna keep. His what's effectively going to be a 4/4 alive.
Mm-hmm.
And now comes Breeding Champion, 2 more bodies here, so more problems. And Drake does have 2 Atresses in hand and cut short.
I don't think that cut short's going to be very helpful. We're not doing a lot of attacking here.
He could have cast it. He could have actually cast it after he cast the Breeding Champion on the Portent Tracker if he wanted to. But
sure.
He did not.
We do have a Dissipate in hand.
Is that just counterspell exile it?
Yeah, counterspell exile. One item I haven't really considered is this Erixmathes. Okay. Comes into play tapped, which of course is just drawn off the top of the library. Works very well with Portent Tracker, right? Much like the Blighted Burgeoning, it untaps a land that, taps for 2 mana. That's very powerful.
Yeah, we'll see if he needs more mana at this point.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need it for the mana, but if you're going to be casting some spells, I think you want to get that Erixmathes down as soon as possible, so that way you can get as many counters off as possible. Obviously, the power of it comes from being a 12/12, but it takes 5 spells to get that way.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, these Phyrexian tokens are actually kind of a trump card to the sludge monster. It doesn't interact favorably for Drake here. And right now his attacks are pretty poor. Like, he can't attack with his flyer. He can't really attack with his Monastery Mentor with no spells. He's just going to have to cast his Atris, I think. He's drawn a Mirror Shell Crab, which is a 7-drop, but you could channel it to counter something unless they pay 3 or 4. So, I think he's just going to land an Atris here. But Jordan appears to at least have, for this turn, have stabilized. And this Corruption of Tawashi drew him a couple extra cards, and the Atris gets countered. So another Atris will be coming down next turn. But for the time being, Drake's probably just going to have to pass the turn here.
Yeah, I think Jordan's essentially living off the top of his deck. Thornwood Falls, the life gain land, likely not going to do it for him. We've seen in this format time and time again, this Tangled Skyline continuously giving all of your Phyrexians reach, being a pretty huge effect. Reach normally not something that you would find yourself being, all that excited about, especially paying 5 mana for it. But tacking it on is a little bit of flavor text almost to something else.
It's utterly obnoxious, and the game 5 is also just oh my. You always feel so good when you cast it, and you always feel so bad when your opponent casts it, and you're like, and I have to go through that. Like, you might even still be ahead, but you're still like, just like more.
It is much more than a speed bump
to slog through. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's beatable, but it's annoying.
This Atris finally kind of whiffs a little bit. We've got the Captive Weird and 2 lands, and so putting the 2 lands on the bottom, suggests, hey, maybe weird, and looks like Jordan's got the mind games on lockdown here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this late in the game and knowing how good Jordan is, I think it could only basically be 2 lands underneath that. Or 2 lands, or a land at like a completely dead card.
Yeah, I would imagine. Another cut short or something.
An actively good card. It's gotta, the 2 cards gotta be bad. And it's like, at this point in the game, he doesn't need card volume. He just needs to win here. So here comes this Herbology Instructor to pick off something.
Yeah, and I think the flipping over and like killing something is going to be sort of middling. It's fine, obviously taking care of the Monastery Mentor, but more than anything, card that draws a card. And I think that's really all Jordan's looking for is, sort of trying to draw himself into a win here by continuously hitting spells and continuously hitting, impactful cards off the top of his library to unlock his 12/12 and hopefully make some headway into this board state.
There's a Deadly Derision off the top. kind of like nothing even really to kill right now. Like none of these.
You
Things are
can
like
kill the
that at
4/4,
one.
or excuse me, the 5/5 on Jordan's side, and if you do that, that allows the sludge monster to attack through. It's kind of middling, right? Not that exciting. You could also sort of hold it for the Erixmathes, because that was certainly something that was a problem last game.
Yeah, right now it's a land. Yeah, he might just he's dragging it. He might just fire it off here on the bigger creature. It does get him some prowess triggers here. Not sure if that could get him in for enough damage. Well,
I'm not seeing it now. Atris taking 2 blockers is kind of big, and obviously I think you're going to take either the 3/3 and a 1/1, or more than likely the 4/4 on the 4/4. An all-out attack is a lot. You're pushing a lot of damage.
Here. He's doing some quick math.
So he's got to let the Atris through, otherwise he's dead, assuming that Drake attacks all out.
If the sludge monster puts a counter on the 3/3, will it lose reach?
Yes, it should. No, it's still a Phyrexian. Yeah. So then no, it shouldn't be. If it loses the Phyrexian type, which might be layering at that point,
we need a judge
because it loses its creature type.
We need a judge for that one.
My guess is that it would lose the reach, because I think they become sludge or slimes or something.
Looks like he's just gonna throw in everything here.
And I think it
has retained its ability to have reach,
which is great. That kind of means it's a pretty decent blocker for the 2/2.
The preening champion. Yeah, he basically says if I don't know if he knew that it would not lose reach, because otherwise he said, well, if you want to eat my preening champion, it means the sludge monster's gonna still get in.
Yeah.
So he's got a mirror shell crab in hand. I don't think it's going to be able to counter anything this turn.
Oh, that's a good card. All right.
Yeah. So, 7
Jordan's looking to trade off, and now.
Okay. This is interesting, because he's got a cut short, with which he could target his own creature. That's like maybe being that's getting eaten, and then it will pump his monks. So maybe that might get in for some surprise damage here.
Yeah.
So let's see what Jordan decides to do. Jordan can basically read that any spell will pump the monks, so he's gonna recognize any spell could, even if it's a weird one like cut short. It's the same as any spell. So I don't think he's going to leave himself dead to a non-creature spell here. But it's hard not to.
Yeah, he's certainly taking some time. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to hold this 4/4, because against the rest of the board, outside of the sludge monster, it's a very good, powerful card, right? It's just a 4/4
I think he just has
on
to
the
block
board.
The monks here.
Yeah, he can't really double block he could try to double block the Atris, but if he's going to do that, I think that he would likely want to do it with the portent trackers.
If he's doing that, then he will have left himself dead to basically any spell.
Yeah, okay, so he moves the 4/4 over to a monk.
Block at least a monk here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this way, basically, he's telling Drake, I don't think you have 2 spells.
Yeah, which for 5 mana, including the convoke, that's tough to do.
Yeah, unlikely.
I think we're looking at the.
He's thinking deep here, but he's gone for the line that actually leaves him dead to a spell.
Maybe he thinks that he can't beat a spell in this moment.
Yeah, so he can just cut short his own blocked creature and get in for 7.
Let's see if Drake finds that line. I know obviously it's glowing in hand, and it's something that you kind of have to think. You normally don't think of using a removal spell on your own creature, but
well, he seems to be a pretty astute player, like with the lethal exploit play from the last game, which I didn't see until he was about to do it. He's dragging up cut short, so it looks like he's just making sure he's got everything lined up here. I mean, if Jordan does have a spell that interacts with this, it won't work, but Jordan...
That's the game.
He sees it. Yeah, so interesting he blocked in such a way that left himself dead to any spell. But maybe he figured it wasn't looking great anyway, even if he made the blocks that kept him alive.
That'd be my assumption. He
said-
says, if I'm going to win, it's going to be my opponent is holding 3 lands. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case for him.
He blocked as if he was going to have another turn. And he didn't have another turn, so we were going to game 3. So let's see what Drake wants to do here. He made a couple little changes in between the first game and the second. There's a cut short is coming out, and what did he sunder the gateway?
Oh, sure, seeing both entangled.
He doesn't want the corruption of Tawashi. It's a pretty clean kill in the corruption of Tawashi if they don't have the 2 mana right away. I mean, they still get a 4/4, but you deny them the extra card and you get a 2/2. So
Jordan looks like he's going to be going. He took a look at the graveyard, saw lots of kill spells, and interaction coming from Drake, and so he found a negate in his sideboard that he thinks he's going to bring in, and took out Forest Cycler, one of the big 6/5s.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not that. It's kind of filler.
Yeah, I mean, he's got actually quite a few double green cards, being a tandem takedown, and then the Moloch in here as well. So obviously making sure that you have that double green can be important. But he was running 2 of the Forest Cyclers, so shaving 1 for what could be a game-defining spell in negate, I think is really, really well done.
Yeah, whenever negate comes out of the sideboard, you feel really good about it. Whenever your opponent,
especially if it does well, right?
Whenever your opponent game 1 negates you in a best of 3 draft on Arena, I'm just like, who, why, where, how? Like, why are they making it?
That means the draft didn't go very well, huh?
What,
yeah, the draft didn't go well.
Why?
So Jordan's opening hand looking very essentially powerful in the long run. We Herbology Instructor to hopefully stop some run over, the Invasion of Pyruli to set up a draw, and a 3rd game in a row, a Ricksmithies, the big towering titan of 12/12 for 4 mana. And a couple of lands.
So Drake's got a bunch of interaction here. Negate, Afara's Dispersal, Final Flourish, and he's got a Hidetsugu and Kairi.
Oh my gosh.
Second island yet.
All right, so take one wild guess what's on top of our library.
Oh, no.
5 mana, 5/5. It makes things into 2/2s. Just take a guess.
It's a sludge monster.
It's a sludge monster sitting on top of our library with an Invasion of Peru, a Stasis Field going to the bottom, and Isaac Gataxis likely going to be the very top card we're going to reveal, which means that Drake likely won't know about the sludge monster until turn 5 when Jordan has the ability to either play the sludge monster or the Corruption of Tawashi he just drew for turn.
Yeah, so Jordan wants to keep the sludge monster, but he doesn't want his opponent to know that he has the sludge monster, so he's just kept
Precisely.
he's just kept this innocuous, more or less innocuous card on top, even though he doesn't get to draw it. He does get to protect.
Notably, with only 5 total lands, some of these really big spells, corruption plus flip, that kind of stuff, don't necessarily look like they're available to Jordan. But on turn 4, he can either cast the Eryxmithes or the Eyes of Gataxis, and putting that Eryxmithes down gives him 7 total mana on turn 5, which means he could play corruption and flip. He could use the Eyes and flip. He could flip over his Herbology Instructor.
Herbology, yeah. I've developed a new respect for the Herbology Instructor after I had 4 of them in a draft deck just yesterday. Apparently, the people drafting with me were passing the herb.
Yeah. Hey, man. More for me, I guess, right?
I guess, they had enough, so they were passing the herb to me, I guess. Yeah, so that was just... I think I played a couple of aggro decks. It was just, oh my god.
I really see Herbology Instructor as a potential constructed sideboard card against these really hyper aggressive decks. 1/3 body is great, gain 3 life is great, and if the game goes long, the ability to kill off another creature also potentially great. Do I think it's going to be huge? No, but certainly possible.
I mean, we're not talking too much about construct, but I know back in the days of Tarkir, I forget what it was called, but it was the exact same card as Herbology Instructor, except without the transform. It was just it was a white card. It was a 2 mana 1/3, and you gained 3 life when it came in, and that was a sideboard card in constructed.
Yeah. I think it's certainly so. If it's good enough for constructed, it's certainly going to be good enough here in.
I can't remember the name, but it was
probably some Ojutai something,
something like that. But I know it was played quite a lot as a sideboard card. Here comes Sledge Monster onto an open board, but
I find this interesting.
Right back into the hand.
I find this interesting because Jordan's got 7 total mana. If he ends up playing the Corruption of Tawashi and the land he's got in hand, he could flip it over and start drawing cards there. And maybe he just values the 5/5 on board and says, "Hey, here's some bait.
Yeah,
Tap out and kill it." And
he could have dispersal end of turn. but didn't. So now he's just sort of got a handful of reactive things, but not in the exact. So he's going to play Hidetsugu and Kairi, understanding that it is going to get
Slimed.
It is going to get a slime counter. So he's looking at a bunch of cards here. Let's see. He's one of them is a hoarding broodlord that he found off of this Hidetsugu and Kairi.
Yeah, although very powerful, dealing lots of damage with Hidetsugu if it happens to be on top. You don't really want it to be because you want to be able to cast that spell.
Yeah,
rather than just getting exiled for damage.
I was surprised that he didn't tutor a removal in the last game with his hoarding broodlord. But let's see what he does here. His other cards in hand. He might be putting an artistic refusal on top.
Oh, sure, that's very powerful.
But the Hidetsugu Kairi is going to lose its ability when the sludge monster attacks, so he will not get that trigger if it dies with the sludge.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think if there's any way that he's going to be able to sort of get the trigger by maybe bouncing the sludge monster and trading. But if he does that, there's likely not going to be much of an ability to set up that draw. It's going to be just sort of a random one off the top.
He's going to get paid off for his corruption of Tawashi immediately here.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a card.
I see. Maybe that was the whole plan the whole time, right? Play the 5/5 that you know they can't really block to end up getting 2 cards off the corruption Tawashi. One from flipping the invasion, one from then flipping up the 4/4 that he gets. We picked up a printing champion and then also a progenitor exarch for our last 2 cards.
This is beginning to spiral a little bit here for for Drake. It's not looking like it's going too great here. So he has a hoarding broodlord. He has a monastery mentor which you can't cast. He has refusal, negate, and dispersal. So he has some, as far as dispersal, temporary answer, artistic refusal, and negate obviously only work when your opponent has cast something. So a little troublesome here. And Jordan's just drawing cards. He's developing his board. And Drake just had an awkward hand with sort of these very reactive spells that are not pairing up well against what he's facing now.
I think if he could have either had a little bit of board presence in order to use the refusal on the sludge monster or the negate on the corruption of Tawashi, he would be in a much better spot as it is. But tapping out for the big 5-mana 5/4 really being the only major threat in his hand. Like if he had a white source where on turn 3 he could have deployed the monastery mentor and then held up these reactive game plans while just accruing monk tokens the entire time, it'd be an entirely different story. But missing that white mana and tapping out on turn 5, he's really behind on board and he doesn't have any way to catch up from that. There's no major sweepers. He doesn't have a slew of kill spells. His hope here is kind of bounce the sludge monster at end of turn maybe and try to counter it on the way back down, which then unlocks his 5/4 to start trading off with some of these items from Jordan. But Jordan's got a mid full of 5 cards, which includes a hand of Gitaxis. I mean, if that happens, then he's going to draw 2 cards off of it.
So he's going to target his token to grow, like we mentioned before. Something you would not want to do to your opponent's token, but something you very much want to do to your own.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, it still has the ward and trample because it being a transform permanent, that's going to be a static effect coming from the backside of that invasion of Pyrulia.
Yeah, so look at this this sludge monster wreaking all sorts of havoc. Every game we've seen it. Even on Drake's side, we saw it wreak havoc.
Yeah, we've seen 4 sludge monsters in 3 games.
We're making up for lost time. It's been a while since we've seen Sludge Monster in play. So
yeah, I think after this game, if I never saw it again, I think I'd be okay.
Sludge Monster says, "Oh, you forgot me? Well, remember me now."
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
maximum surveil value, sending 2 lands from the top of the bin to the graveyard.
Yeah, it's unfortunate he had to tap out with the Hidetsugu and Kairi right after the Sludge Monster, knowing it would become a 2/2. But I think he figured I have to dig a few cards deeper into my deck since I don't have anything presently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can just counter the size of Gitaxis.
Hey man, it's better Mull Drifter, right? 5 mana, draw 2 cards, make a 3/3. If only it flew and gained 3 life, right?
Are you sure? Are you sure it's better than a Mull Drifter? Oh, Let's not say anything we're going to regret later. So he's drawn Flitting Gorilla here, which just is 2/2 with what's going to effectively be no abilities.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 2/2 with blank text at this point.
So he could play as Brood Lord to go get a removal for the Sludge Monster, but then he's going to have to take 9, or potentially...
That will also be a 2/2 with no abilities.
And there's going to be a 12/12 coming at him next turn, almost assuredly.
Is there only one counter left on the Eriksmithies? Yeah,
It looks to be, yeah.
Jordan can only he could cast 2 different spells in hand. Notably, the Progenitor Exarch is missing the white mana, and he does have a flip the switch. So if Drake decides to go for the big dragon, I think that's going to be game over.
Be dead, yeah. Yeah, so we see these Midnight Hunt cards. Not too many of them, but enough to certainly make an impact here. Particularly monster.
You could really go to every plane at least once, pull out the biggest bombs like, Sludge Monster and such, and they'd all look fantastic. Even M19, I think, if you hit the right planeswalker, maybe.
M19, yeah, sure, why not? That had a few good cards.
You only need one in order to make the pack worth it.
Yep. I'm still debating what to do for the first time. I've now used up all my Marcher Machine packs, so I'm now in the process of deciding where to go.
I personally am lucky enough not to have to make that decision ever again. I'm exactly at 10 losses this league, so we're doing the best we can with what we got, and one more and we're out.
But you made it to week 5, so
that I did. I survived week 4.
It's an accomplishment all on its own, honestly. Like it gets intense in the late days of the league here. So,
you're telling me something I've learned very quickly.
So we see this 12/12 is going to get woken up, and it's going to be all bad here for Drake. He's going to have to chump block the 12/12. He's going to be in a bad situation.
He doesn't really have any sort of interaction left anymore. We saw the negate and the Afar's dispersal gone.
He's got the artistic refusal, but if he does that, he dies.
Sure, then he's still dead.
Yeah, Monastery Mentor can't be cast. Brood Lord would have just been lethal if he cast it. So he's just in the chump blocking mode, and he doesn't have a board wipe. So
I think you really have to take 9 and chump block the 12/12. Hopefully, finding something for the maybe finding something for the Sludge Monster.
Yeah, but there's still 12. Here's another dispersal. Huh. Still not enough. Yeah. So we just see the power of the Sludge Monster, but this powerful green ramp strategy Jordan's harnessed here to get the win over Drake. So congratulations to Jordan, and we'll see you back in a little while for our next match.